his experiences in Gaza more generally and the current tensions.
When I'm seeing what's happening now in the Gaza border, it's killing me from the inside because, I'm thinking about what I went through and about the friends I lost fighting for this country, for Arabs and Jews in the same way. I'm asking myself sometimes if it was all worth it to lose part of your hands, to lose part of your body, to lose part of your soul, if this situation will continue. And I'm answering myself every single time that yes.
Ziv Shilon spent 6 years in the Israeli army, 3 of them in Gaza, where he commanded 130 combat soldiers. An IED, improvised explosive device, ended his service and almost his life. It was 6 in the morning. IDF tanks were waiting to return to Israeli territory, and because of sniper threats, Ziv advanced alone to open the gate separating Gaza and Israel. The IED blew up in his face.
I opened my eyes and, the pain filled my body. I immediately noticed that my left hand was missing. There was blood everywhere, and I remember myself trying to reach and apply pressure on the wound, but nothing happened. And when I looked on my right arm, I realized exactly why. It was also almost disconnected, lying on the flaming hot soil, hanging on small pieces of skin and flesh.
For 4 days, it was touch and go. No one thought he'd pull through. 17 surgeries and nearly a year of intensive rehabilitation has left him with 10% movement in his left arm and a prosthetic arm on his right. Now he's taken it upon himself to make sure the world understands what it's like for Israeli soldiers fighting in Gaza.
I risked my life so many times just to make sure that no civilians from the Palestinian side will hurt under very complicated operations. I risk my soldiers. We walk exposed completely instead of sending a tank or a missile from a plane, just to make sure that no child or no innocent people will be on this specific place in the Gaza border.
Here, a recent video of the Israeli army stopping an airstrike after seeing children playing in the area. And Ziv remembers a 14-year-old child riding a donkey and approaching him and his soldiers. They yelled at him repeatedly not to come any closer.
After we decided not to shoot this child at all, he ran away, and the donkey was close to us, and it was explode in such powerful way that it destroyed completely the fence. We were lucky that we was under shelters, and not me and not my soldier was harmed by this incident. If Israel want, considering only the power of the army, Gaza could be vanished in 24 hours. But we're not doing it. We're not doing it just because we know that are many civilians that live there. I want to say it as a former commander in the IDF to the citizens of Gaza: we love you. We want you to live a normal life. You need to know that your leadership, Hamas leadership, making all the problems.
As current hostilities continue to heat up, the prospect of returning to a normal life seems as far away as ever. Paul is here, RT, Herzliya.
Well, we've also spoken to a lawyer, Daniel Reisner, who previously worked for the Israel Defense Forces. He does say that Hamas makes it impossible for the IDF to avoid civilian casualties.
The IDF standing orders are only allowed to attack military targets. Now, not everyone will know what the target was, because sometimes it's intelligence information, but they have a total prohibition on attacking civilian targets. Even when they attack a military target, they do everything they can to verify that there are minimum number of civilians, or no civilians preferably, in the vicinity. Unfortunately, because Hamas has placed all of its military installations in the middle, intentionally in the middle of the civilian life of Gaza, it's incredibly difficult. They create an intentional dilemma for us. Either we don't fire back, which obviously is what they're looking for, or when we do fire back, you will see the tragic children of collateral and incidental and tragic death. And for Hamas, it's a win-win. Either we don't attack or you show those pictures. In both cases, you serve their purpose.
I always knew that I'm going to be a combat soldier in the army. And I knew that I'm going to serve my country as best as I can. My next dream was to become a commanding officer. And after 2 years of very rough training, I complete and fulfill this dream. And I can tell you that this is a very satisfying and exciting moment in my life, but at the same breath, it's a huge responsibility. Tuesday, October 23rd, was the day my life was forever changed. At 6 a.m., nearly the end of my last mission as a company commander, I arrived to the security fence in order to open it and allow the last Israeli tank forces to return to Israeli territory. Because of the heavy fog and the fact that there were enemy snipers who were likely waiting for us, I was concerned for my soldiers' safety and lives. Therefore, I decided, as a commander, to lead the mission by myself. I ordered my soldier to stay 250 yards behind me, in safe shelters, and walk through that gate alone. I understood the great risk while walking through that gate, but I was taught that as a commander, I should always be in the front line. I approached the gate, crouching and crawling as I made my way. I opened the lock on that gate slowly. For some reason, my hands were shaking. I pushed the gate and moved about 3 steps further, and then I felt an enormous explosion that pushed me back. It felt like my entire body was on fire. A few seconds later, I opened my eyes and the pain filled my body. I immediately knew that my left hand was missing. There was blood everywhere, and I remember myself trying to reach and apply pressure on the wound, but nothing happened. I tried again, and still nothing moved. When I looked on the right hand, I realized exactly why. It was almost disconnected, lying on the flaming hot soil, hanging on small pieces of skin and flesh. Both my arms didn't function. In the first few seconds, I tried to conquer my shock, not letting it take over me. I had to make myself realize that this is no nightmare, but a reality. I told to myself that I am still on a mission and had to do everything in my power to complete it. I knew that if I wouldn't respond immediately, I will lose a lot of blood and eventually die. With my last powers, I pressed my left hand into the sand so it would stop bleeding. Took with me whatever that was left from the right hand, grabbed it over to my chest, and start running with all my gear, with all my combat gear, back to my soldiers. Step by step, as the blood poured out on my body, I ran 250 yards. After a few minutes, I approached my vehicle. I can say that my soldiers were in shock. When we arrived to the helicopter landing ground, my deputy approached me. The first thing I asked him was, "Eli, look at my face and tell me the truth. Am I still pretty?" He looked at me, smiled and said, "Ziv, you are the prettiest soldier in the Middle East." I was evacuated from there to Soroka Hospital, is also in the south, in Beersheba, in critical condition. In the first 2 weeks, I went through 10 surgeries, hanging between life and death. I can tell you that today, my life changed. I'm still struggling to do things that I used to do before, but at the same breath, my life journey taught me to have the determination to conquer even higher hills. From a point in my life that I couldn't even walk 2 steps, I completed a marathon 7 months ago in Berlin, in most symbolic way for every Jew around the world. I won my war as a wounded Israeli soldier maybe in the worst place of our history. I felt like I was proving to the Jewish nation that even if we have suffered, even if we have been hurt, we always come back stronger, as an individual and as a